Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Fade the Field, a Seven Oracles production. I am your Oracle, Arumula, aka Coach Gene Clemons, joined as always by my guy, CJ, Chris James, the brain, the man, the myth, the legend. Never has there been a greater combination of how in the hell did you get that athletic and that smart in the same dude when it comes to a lot of this stuff. That's why you want to always listen to him. CJ, what's up, man?
Man, I'm just trying to make it out here in this world. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good, man. I'm hype because the women's game gave us everything that we didn't think was going to happen. Right? Like the women's Final Four came down to all of the top seeds, or at least most of the top seeds. I think it was 3 number ones and a number 2 or something like that. And no, was it Texas? Texas was, yeah, all four. So Texas was the number 1 too. So we had all of these upsets and stuff happen throughout the tournament, only to get down to the Final Four and have the top 4 teams get there. It looked like UConn was just going to run roughshod over the last 2 games because that's what they've been doing all season. Texas looked like they were going to beat UCLA because UCLA relied heavily on only 2 players to score. Texas has great defense. You thought they'd be able to lock them down. UCLA does away with Texas. Texas misses all the layups in the world. South Carolina comes out and scores like gangbusters versus UConn and beats the juggernaut. Gino Auriemma loses his mind. Dawn Staley says she'll beat Gino Auriemma's ASS. I believe her because I watched Gino walk, and he don't walk the greatest. But all of that happens only to then get South Carolina and UCLA go out there and beat down South Carolina and do it in a way where it felt like dominance. And then when I look back at the game, they beat them the exact same way Texas beat them. South Carolina missed all the layups in the world. They got desperate. They got behind their skis, and when UCLA smells the blood in the water, that's a wrap for you. They just pounce. So it was great. Like nothing unfolded the way that I thought it was going to unfold. If you told me, hey, who's going to win that game, who was going to win the championship, I would not have picked UCLA out of all 4 teams. They would have been my 4th team that I picked.
Well, you're right. So opportunity met execution. So in the round against Texas, UCLA did take advantage of a situation where Texas didn't play their best game, but they made an adjustment, or at least it looked like an adjustment in a championship game where they played kind of like the Rockets played back when they had Akeem. They played 4 out. They had shooters out there in the 3-point line a lot of times, with Lauren Beth being massive inside, and they just threw it out. They were able to knock down some shots. They put stress on South Carolina. Some of the defensive moves that South Carolina implemented against UConn did not work in that scenario. Also, they blew layups because they didn't want to go in the paint. And it was just all of these things that cascaded into the worst scenario for South Carolina, coming off of a game where they played excellent basketball against UConn, and UCLA ran away with it.
Yeah, the men's game was interesting because you had a bunch of different, kind of looks. You had your number 1 seeds in Arizona and Michigan. Then you had, the representation of the others, like the fact that Cinderella was Cinderella again this year. You know what I'm saying? So like you had Illinois there, you had Illinois there, you had UConn there. Illinois had a really good opportunity to beat UConn, didn't get it done. UConn comes away with a championship. One could argue they should have never been there if the Duke guard just holds on to the ball. Sorry, Boozer. But yeah. But it's not Bobby Hurd, excuse me. It's Dan Hurley in a championship game for the 3rd time in 4 seasons. It doesn't even matter to me that he didn't win it, right? The fact that you're in it 3 times in 4 seasons, you got to put his name amongst the greats now. You got two.
So, yes, you're right.
Birth in 4 seasons.
We'll put it like this. So before we started with the NCAA men's tournament, there were about 10 teams who could legitimately make the Final Four, maybe 12 if you stretched it out. And 4 of those 10 to 12 teams made it. Yes, it could have been 3 1 seeds like we discussed in a prior episode that would have made it if some things went differently. UConn their way, and Dan Hurley their way. No matter what you think about him and how he gets down, he is the best coach in the game right now. Dan Hurley, that team, their way to a 6-point loss in the championship because they were outmatched against Duke. Didn't matter. Illinois could have outscored them, but they got out-hustled. Didn't matter. Michigan should have blown them out, but the game was close because they got to every loose ball. They didn't turn the ball over without Michigan literally just being better than them. They made very few mistakes based on the talent that they offered. That's coaching combined with talent because Michigan could have outclassed them. You switch the styles of play in that game, Michigan wins by 35. That's how well UConn executed in that game from a busting their tail, being well-coached standpoint. And you got to give Dan Hurley his flowers because he is a heck of a basketball coach no matter what roster he has.
Yeah, he's a great basketball mind. He's a great basketball coach. He's an a-hole. Like, we don't even have to act like he's not. He's an a-hole. And unfortunately, a lot of a-holes are really good basketball coaches, right? So that's okay. But what I do like about him, what I'll never take away from him is in defeat, he never acts like Gino Auriemma. Like, and that's what I appreciate. He never does the Gino Auriemma thing where he's going to blame everybody else or try to take away from the victory of the opponent by claiming it was some other force. Even when they gave him the layup with the refereeing and filing, he just took the high road. He said, hey, it's hard to be a referee out here. And I appreciated that from him.
And that's the number one thing. You made the right statement. To me, yeah, he presents as an a-hole, but I don't think he's a bad guy. In fact, I appreciate accountability in anyone, and he seems to take it. That's why I have to give him his flowers. And also, I don't have an issue with him. Even if he's not my type of guy, I can respect how he gets down.
Yeah, for sure. And so, how it goes. As soon as we put the wrap on the college basketball season, the WNBA next week, people are already saying, can Michigan win it again? Will UConn be back? What's going on? We already had a market resolved today. North Carolina announced Mike Malone as their new head basketball coach. This marks to me the first major domino that is falling in the new landscape of college basketball. They hired a pro basketball coach to come in here because they know that the money recruits the kids now. It's not necessarily the branding and the name. The money's going to recruit the kids. We're going to pony up the money to get you the players that you need. We need you to come in here and coach them up and be ready to coach up a different roster every year because you're going to have turnover outside of a few core pieces. What did you think about that hire? And for those who are wondering, Mike Malone, I don't even know if he had to be trading at one of the lowest percentages because everybody we saw on the list were all either former North Carolina people or high-level college coaches, in the past. So Billy Donovan was the only pro coach that I saw on the list that was getting some real love. Like, this was out of left field. What do you think about the hire?
It's an interesting hire because the expectation was that there'd be a heavy North Carolina tie and someone who wants to be there because they want the brand. And I had to take a step back and think this actually makes more sense than it presents as. One of the things that came along with college coaching is people in the past before NIL wanted their hands in everything. They wanted to recruit the kids because they wanted to know the kids, or young men is better to say it. And they wanted to foster their own set from, the ground up. Well, now with NIL and lots of transferring and lots of making new rosters each year over year, a pro coach who's used to that, I just need to come in and implement my stuff and make sure they're on board with my stuff. It kind of takes the personal feelings of I recruited this kid out of it in some landscapes, and you're just able to coach specifically the roster that's in front of you. So you may see more movement where you see pro coaches who've been out of the game or are in the game coming over to the college landscape on massive stages, and it could work better. So now they operate better with the GM of the program instead of having a lot of infighting because they want to pick their own players because they've done it for years. This could be kind of a change coming with how this level operates with these pro-style coaches who are used to dealing with GMs in that organizational setup.
Yeah, because the one thing that's for sure, as much as stuff changes, here's what has to be known. Kenny Smith said it, and I think he was 1,000% right. You don't go to North Carolina to take another job. So whomever you bring in at North Carolina has to be somebody that's willing to like retire with the job. They're either going to get fired or they're going to retire with the job. I don't know if that's Mike Malone. We'll see. I mean, he's only in his early 50s, so it's not like he's near retirement, right? But I don't know if it's him because he's a pro coach. We'll see. I think that was probably a part of the conversation and what he sold as him coming to North Carolina. Hey, I'm going to retire as a Tar Heel. I want to put 18 years in or 20 years in and retire at 70-something years old or whatever it might be, whatever he decides to do. But you can't come to North Carolina looking for North Carolina to be a stepping stone, and you can't lose the players that you get at North Carolina to other programs. So once they're there at North Carolina, they're either going to the league or they're graduating. It can't be, oh, well, we lost. And I'm talking about the starters, the major contributors, because we know backups are always going to transfer, right? But you can't lose starters to other teams. Michigan had a North Carolina starter on it. St. John's had a North Carolina starter on it. How much better is North Carolina this season when your best player goes down if you still have those two pieces in the fold that could possibly buoy you through the rest of the season? That's something that they're going to have to fix at North Carolina. But no, go ahead.
I was saying, well, number one, you probably don't lose a 19-point lead. But number two, I will actually disagree with Kenny and actually agree with your standpoint on this one. I don't think that North Carolina is a job that you have to retire at. I think it's a job where you need to put in the work for an extended period. And mainly, you just have to make sure you maintain the brand and maintain those starters or high-level players. Mike Malone doesn't have to be there for 20 years. What he needs to do is be there for a good 7 or so. And if they do get a handoff to a guy, because we got to work through the NIL period. NIL will not be like this forever. But right now, it's like this. So there's a really good coach to work through what it is right now. Maybe if it transitions a little closer to how it used to be, then you can get that guy that's going to retire with the job because the job becomes different. This is more corporate America on the college landscape, especially basketball, than it used to be, let's say, 5-10 years ago. So as long as he's able to maintain that job for 5 to 7 years and it can be transitioned to someone who wants to retire in that job, then they can get back to what they want as alums. But they needed someone who could actually make this landscape work for that program, which it hasn't over the last few years.
I mean, that's a great point. You just can't have the mood swings. You can't get to the finals one year and then the next year be in the NIT. And then get to the Elite Eight and then the next year get bounced in the first round. That's not going to work at North Carolina. That's not what they're built on. Let's get to some of these things today because we're on to 2027 already. Let's check out our first question of the day. And this question is, who will be the 2027 NCAA men's tournament winner? This is interesting because it never takes any time. They just won a championship yesterday. And today we're asking who's going to win the next year's championship. I always think that's interesting that we get it turned over so quick. But early on, the odds makers have Duke, or not the odds makers, excuse me. The markets have Duke at at 12%, Michigan at 13%, Arizona at 6%, Illinois at 10%, just going down some of those names that got close last season that are going to be back. Interesting enough, Michigan State at 10%, 10.4x. I'm assuming that they have that in place, thinking that Michigan State is going to return a lot of their team, and Houston at 9%, which is interesting because Houston seems to always get there and don't necessarily win it. North Carolina is currently trading at 7%, but I expect that to change immediately because like 7 or 8 of their prospects have all declared that they're going into the transfer portal. So we'll see how that works out. At first blush, who do you look at as not only a team that can win it, but also has a great value for you to throw maybe something on now and watch it mature over the next year?
Sure. So in a market like this, it's name recognition and also strong bias at the time. So Michigan, of course, they just won the championship, right? Well, they might not have the next team, considering they're the first team to have 5 starting transfers win a national championship. You don't know what's going to go on with them. Duke, this is not a John Shire take. This is a take of they seem to bring in youth that's there for a year, and then they're out. Boozer's probably not going to be there, the bigger Boozer, right? Even though I have my own questions about him. So let's go with the situation where you have a coach who recently won a national championship, who had a really good team, is in a conference that isn't as strong-willed as his own, and can return some of these starters. And that's Florida, former number 1 seed, trading at 9%, 11.7 times your money. You get a team in the Southeastern Conference who doesn't have a lot of like the stronger freshmen bouncing out, like Kingston Fleming. He's going to be probably leaving Houston and gone, right? Acuff's leaving Arkansas. Florida doesn't really have that. Florida can bring back some of these guys. Florida can return to glory with a team that just won a national championship the year prior, and you're getting great value here because people have kind of knocked them out because they lost in the round of 32. That's where I would go if I was putting my money down.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad place to go, right? Because Florida, there's a good chance that Florida returns a lot of guys, right? I think that helps. I think there's a certain level of the way they play. They'll add a little bit more offensive punch next year, which is what I think they need. And a great value at 13 and a half on your money if you invest in it right now. I look at a team like, and again, this is how you have to think about these investments. If you invest right now, and you get to the tournament, and let's say Florida is a 1 seed, right? You might actually have enough equity to cash out that bet. I mean, to cash out that investment right now, because if they're 13.4x right now and they get a 1 seed, they'll probably be like 2.5x at that point, which means now you have 11x worth of equity that you could then sell off and make a pretty darn good profit, get 10 to 1 on your money. That's how you have to be playing these things right now. It also allows you that if you really believe that they are going to be good, if they hit a rough spot in the season, like say a UConn did when UConn was struggling during the year, right? You can then take that dip and maybe even get them cheaper, buy more stock in them cheaper than you did, only to watch that stock mature in the tournament. And if they get to the Final Four, cash out. Like, that's the way that you have to look at these markets. It's not about choosing the winner like you would if you were sports betting, right? If you were sports betting, you just got to bet who's going to win. But in the prediction market game, you have to predict who's going to win. And as you get closer to being right, you can decide, hey, I've made enough. I can sell this off and get a little of that money back. Or maybe get more of that money back.
Correct. To Gene's point, this is like stock trading. You're buying the dip and you're taking advantage of the escalating point and letting other people buy from you. That's how you 3 or 4 times your money without making any additional investment.
Yeah, so I think that's a great call. Florida is one of the ones that I was looking at. I also alluded to it a little bit earlier, but Houston. I just think at some point, if they can keep enough of their young talent around for an extra season, right? If those two freshmen don't declare for the draft, if they come back for season 2, and now you've got a legitimate big inside that can protect the rim against teams like Florida, and then you have a legitimate bucket on the outside. Now you have enough with your defensive prowess to hopefully get the job done, right? And not come up short with a bad shooting performance in the worst time of the year, which they seem to do every year in the tournament. So it'll be interesting to see, how those go. Let's hit to the next question. The WNBA draft is next Monday. I know they just finished the college season. The WNBA draft is next Monday, and there is already talk on prediction markets about who will be the WNBA number 1 overall pick. The consensus is really split between 2 players. Anna Pham, that's the big girl from Spain. I want to say she's 6'4". People have comped her athletic prompts to Asia Wilson, even though she's nowhere near Asia Wilson right now, because I think she's only 19 years old or something like that. By the way, this is also the BS of American sports, where we're trying to pimp these kids out and use them more and this is why it's important to have payment for schools in college, because our farm can go to a professional rank at 19 years old, and Lauren Betts had to wait at least until she graduated from college in order to go to the WNBA. Let's hope we still continue to work on that. That's crazy to me. Our farm, though, she is trading at 48%. Aziz Fudd is trading at 45%, and Lauren Betts is at 8%. So I'm going to ask you this: who's going to be the WNBA's number 1 pick, and why would it not be Lauren Betts?
So to your point, I'm putting my money on Lauren Betts for 2 reasons. Let's say that the Wings keep the pick. They already have 2 legitimate scoring guards, so bringing in Fudd wouldn't make any sense. You got Beckers there, you got Wale there, right? So you bring in the big who can actually balance things out. But also, as we move closer to the draft, we can have possible trades out that number 1 pick. You want to try to make your money when it sits here. 11.7 times your money right now. The narrative just happened. UCLA just won a championship. They're going to get some workouts that happen. If that even moves up to 7.4%, you made some equity. You get nothing right now out of picking those 2 people who are just quintessentially sitting there with no money to gain. You want to take bets right now and see how things operate. Look at your stock as you get closer. You can sell it out, get rid of it, because she might move up boards, and you make some money, which is the most important thing with futures, instead of taking one of these 2 young ladies who they give you no juice for the squeeze based on where they sit currently, because people are trying to be right more than they're trying to proof out how teams are thinking.
Yeah, and it's important to remember that when you're looking at these markets, when it says 2x, what it really means is you're just doubling your money. It doesn't mean you're going to get, like, you're going to end up with 300 if you invest 100. It means you're going to end up with 200 if you invest 100. That's important to remember, because the 2 looks good. When you see 2, you think, "Oh, I'm gonna 2 times my money." No, you're gonna double your money. That's different than what you believe it is if you're thinking about sports betting. So just keep that in mind, that 2x or 2.01 or 2.00x is not plus 200, right? It's not plus 200 if you were talking about sports betting, because plus 200 means you're going to get $300 back. in your investment. 2x means you're going to get $200 back in your investment. That's something clear to know. But I don't understand this thing with Alwa Farm, right? Because she's not ready for the WNBA. People are saying, "Oh, well, she's a talent," and I believe she is. I believe she has all of this. But when you watch her play against against the USA team, these are WNBA players. She's just a person out there. There's nothing special. You're talking about 8-9 points, 6 rebounds a game. If that's what you're doing against like international competition at that level, that's not as high as WNBA competition is. And so I think that what happens is either Dallas chooses her chooses Lauren Betts because they're trying to win right now. There's no reason to try to wait, right? Or they trade the pick to somebody who wants to add a Lauren Betts who's trying to win right now. For you and I, it doesn't matter. All we care about is if Lauren Betts goes number 1 overall, or if we even start to get like the hint that Lauren Betts is going number 1 overall. That gives us the ability to say, yeah, I'm cashing out while I can.
Bingo. And that's the whole thing. Right now, you're trying to grab, again, we keep saying it, grab the dip, take it where it goes. Lauren Betts should be the number 1 pick in this draft, or even if you want to go with the guard from UConn, I could take that because we've seen them against competition that's at a higher level than with a young lady who's over in Spain. It just makes too much sense. And from a roster construction standpoint, Dallas would not need another guard to put in that rotation. Getting a big like Betts would make too much sense. And also your money would love how that worked out.
And I'll tell you this, if you want to know what makes sense for Alwa Farm, right? It's not Dallas taking her with the number 1 overall pick. It would be like think of a team that has an established, an established big already that are looking for the future. It would be like if New York
would be the Aces.
Yeah. It would be like if New York Liberty had the opportunity to get up into the top 3 and they traded somebody and said, "Hey, we want this person. We know she's not going to help us right now because but in 2 to 3 years when she's 21, 22 and fully developed her game, she's going to be unstoppable." I don't think Dallas can wait that long. I think Dallas, you got to win or else you're going to get fired. Like the WNBA is the most impatient league of all the leagues because the talent is so immense that they're cutting people that get drafted in the first round. So like you gotta hit the ground running in the WNBA. So that's why I would be willing to bet on Lauren Betts. Now we're sitting here saying this. Alwa Farm could definitely be the first pick and wouldn't be surprised. But I'll tell you what she won't be is Rookie of the Year. She won't be that. There's a ton of other people that's going to be that. Let's go to the next question. Who wins NBA Rookie of the Year? Right now, we've got a great contest going on because you could argue that there are several people who deserve to win Rookie of the Year, but there's 2 guys who have seemed to kind of separate themselves right now. Both of them from Duke. Both of those guys from Duke. You've got Con Knippel, right? Con Knippel, the shooting guard, small forward combo dude from Charlotte. And then you have obviously the guy that everybody has been on all year from Dallas, and his name just jumped out of my head. CJ Cooper Flag. Yeah, sorry. You got Cooper Flag, and the I think For me, the argument is, do you want the guy that's helped this team elevate, or do you want the guy who has shown individual excellence? What's your take on it?
So the NBA, much like any league, but the NBA is a narrative-driven league. And this award, so if it was the MVP, you would actually lean, and this was the same pool, what rookie is the MVP of the league? You'd lean towards Nipple because the team has gotten better, they're winning games, et cetera, right? We knew it going into the season, and now that he's had these back-to-back games of dropping 50, first teenager to do it, and just looking like a star in some respects, it's going to be Cooper Flagg. It's almost layup money to get it right now. You should have bought the dip before, but we are where we are now. You're going to see the voting actually not be as close as people think it will be. I think they're kind of selling this differently. These people are going to pick Cooper Flagg. It's going to look like a virtual runaway, in my opinion, where it's going to be 2 out of every 3 votes going to Cooper Flagg over Knipple, even though Knipple has played a hell of a season. I think that's how this particular award operates. It's usually narrative driven, and they've attached it to Cooper Flagg since day one.
Is there any value in throwing a little something on a penny stock of a tie between Knipple and Cooper Flagg with your idea of narrative and them being teammates and then, you know, moving on to Duke together, and now both of them doing their own thing in the NBA?
I think because of the value of the penny stock, to your point, it's what, 23.4x or something like that. You throw a little bit on it because the valuation of what you're getting in either Knipple or in Flagg is less than 3x. You put $100 down, you're getting at best 248 back versus getting 170 something back with either of them. You throw a little bit, just $10, $5, you're getting the same value. And maybe some people voted early. Maybe some people are waiting, and then Knipple has 3 straight games to end the season. And when those votes need to come in, they vote for him. And then I'm wrong, and they do end up in a tie because of how the placing stacks up. It's a great one because you need to take advantage of leverage points, and this is one. They're so close right now in how it's operating where that could end up being a true thing. We almost saw the NFL MVP award where it was neck and neck between May and Stafford. So I love that, throwing just a little sprinkle on a penny stock to see if you can get some value out of it.
Absolutely. Let's get to this last one before we get out of here today. Again, the 7 oracles presented by, Fade the Field presented by the 7 oracles. I'm Coach Clemons, CJ here with you, Chris James. Let's get to this last question. This one is, I think, kind of nuanced because we're operating as if Luka Doncic doesn't get the opportunity to be a first team all NBA player because of the amount of games played and that threshold. I think they said that he's going to come underneath that by 1 game, maybe 2, and that he's appealing some games because of the birth of his child, which we know he's really appealing because he's trying to win these awards, because he wants to make sure that when he's ready to re-up, he's got some all pros on the bag to be able to get those super max deals. The interesting part is that it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. Shea, Jokic, done deal, right? They're number ones, no doubt about it. I think that Wembanyama will be he's not of this world, so we're going to make him a first team all pro maybe a year early. I think Jaylen Brown will get oh no, he's much better than we gave him credit for forever. Let's make him first team. That only leaves the one spot which Luka would definitely get, in my opinion, if he had the requisite amount of time. But then that opens up the books for everyone else. Kawhi Leonard trading at 24%. Cade Cunningham at 5%, 23.4x on your money. Jalen Johnson getting some consideration. Jamal Murray getting consideration. Karl Anthony Towns, can he get some love? Like, is there somebody else that you're looking at that you go, this is a guy that probably has the opportunity to get that spot and the value is good on him?
Because it's a name-based league as well, the one that I would, even though his stats don't come close, if you wanted to look at someone who's a long shot, it's Anthony Edwards, because the names usually do play in there. And you got to remember, we do have voters in this league who like a traditional set. What do I mean by that? They like 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center. You got Jokic as your center. You got Shea as your point guard. So now you naturally put in Wembanyama as your power forward, and you got your small forward and Jaylen Brown. The guy who makes the most sense is Kawhi Leonard. The numbers support it, his play support it, and he has the name value. A lot of these guys, like a Jalen Johnson, who have balled this year, aren't going to have that name recognition to get the first team All-Pro, like the first team All-NBA spot. It's usually a name-related award. We've seen this happen year over year where guys who should be third team get second team because they have a name. I think Kawhi Leonard's the layup as long as he hits the threshold.
Yeah, I thought for a while it was going to be a guy like Tyrese Maxey, but I think his play started dipping off towards the back half of the season, especially when we started seeing more of Embiid, and we saw Paul George come back from his PED suspension, right? So it was like once we saw that, it was like he's probably going to be a second team, maybe a third team guy, not getting that. But I thought he was getting through the first few months of the season, he was legitimately like one of the best guards in the league, and then just kind of started dipping. So I agree with you. Like the logical choice is Kawhi Leonard. That's going to bring you back, a $1.81 on your dollar, $1.81 for your dollar. That's a $1.81 of profit for your dollar, which again, if you're looking at this like a real stock person, like 1.8 on your money, that ain't bad at all. It all depends on what you're willing to invest in that and what you're willing to lose if for some reason you're wrong, right? If for some reason Luka Doncic gets the incentive that we're talking about, now you're out of luck because he's going to get the first team, spot. But if he doesn't, Kawhi Leonard is a place where it makes a lot of sense to get your money in and get, decent value at what is not a lot of stress, especially if Luka is no go. So keep your eye on that market. Make sure you're checking it out. You know what you should also do? You should also go to 7oracles.com, the 7oracles.com, really simple. With the number 7, oracles.com, and check out everything we have over at that website, man. I'm telling you, it's more and more stuff every day as we continue to build out the platform for what will be all of the tools and the things that you're going to need to be the best in your prediction market. CJ, anything else you want to hit the people with before we get out of here?
I mean, I can tell you all where to find me and my product line of things that have gone on. If you want to hear any football-related content, some of you all love it, especially with the NFL draft coming up. Chopping It Up with CJ, you can find on Spotify, Apple Pod, any of your favorite podcasting areas. I'm doing my positional rankings right now, trying to get that information out to you so you have a little context for what's being positioned. Actually, the 2 people on the show right now, myself, Gene, and a lot of other talented folks were in the Fantasy Life magazine. You can get that at Walmart, magazine shop, a lot of places where we discuss guys for the draft, future picks, things like that. And we give good context as to what we're doing on this side. That's mainly where you can find me. You can find me on other people's podcasts and trying to put some more content out there. And you can find me on X at CJ Florida 9. It's at CJ, the entire state of Florida, spelled out in the number 9. That's my handle. You can interact with me there as well. And I always love good questions and commentary and interaction because I'm still learning as I'm trying to teach along the way.
Absolutely. And as always, you can find me at Gene Clemons everywhere. The YouTube channel, Coach Gene Clemons. Make sure you hit the 7 Oracles YouTube channel, right? Make sure you subscribe there. Everything we're doing at Fantasy Life over there, come check that out if you're into fantasy. Would love to talk to you there. But always a pleasure to come in, talk a little bit about prediction markets and the things and how they're moving. This world moves so fast, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's moving so fast." Well, guess what? The stock market moves fast. So
Bingo.
obviously this is going to move fast. You better get this stuff in now. That Lauren bets at 11x won't be 11x tomorrow. I promise. It is Tuesday right now as we're recording. So if you're listening to this on Wednesday, go check the market and see if it's changed. Most likely it has. Until next time, for Chris James, I'm Coach Gene Clemons. This has been Fade to Field, a 7 Oracles production.